I have been waiting to talk to you guys for a bit about VHS, and now I have the green light to do so. I have had a hands-on with the game. I'm going to give you my impressions. I won't be able to show you certain types of gameplay, so you are going to see replayed gameplay up on the screen. I do want to be clear, this is not the open beta, so before some of you jump onto the Discord talking about where's the beta, can I get into the beta, don't do that, please. This is not the open beta, it is simply an early access media preview of the game. Now, one interesting thing I do want to note is we kind of seem to be going down the same path, right? DBD came out a few months before the Friday the 13th beta, and here again we kind of have the same pattern. We have VHS coming out a little bit before the Evil Dead game, so VHS seems to be living up to the next level of what a DVD-esque game should be playing like. Can't wait for you guys to see it. And then Evil Dead the game, I don't know much about it. Evil Dead devs, I hope you stomp it and bring that level of gameplay up to be the next kind of Friday the 13th-esque experience. This is exciting. That said, I'm going to get into my direct impressions of the game and what I think about how it plays, the back and forth. If you want to know more about the gameplay mechanics themselves, jump back to one of my earlier videos called Gameplay Breakdown. I know the first and immediate question that most of you want to know is, can the survivors beat up the killers like in last year, where you could just make weapons and go up and just beat the crap out of the killer, and the killer just has to take it, and it's just painful and frustrating? I am happy to tell all of you that no, you cannot beat up the killer in this way. The killer has mechanics that keep the survivors from doing that, and there is a learning curve, but it is a thing. You know, the killer has abilities to keep the survivors off their back if you know how to use them correctly. It's not that hard. Now, it is something that you're gonna have to get comfortable with. Both survivors and killers take a certain amount of learning curve before you get used to them, and I'm gonna go over all that right now. As a survivor, when you start out, you're going to think DBD. You're going to have, most of you have hundreds of hours of DBD on your brains. So you have to kind of learn, I had to myself, you have to learn how to quickly switch that off, and because there's no pallets. So now the great thing is because there's no pallets, the hiding places in this game are immense and you can use them and they work. There's no tears behind the survivors. So you know the orange tears in DBD that the killer can see to track survivors down? There is none of that in VHS. So what that enables you to do in VHS is to hide in so many places. You can hide around corners, you can hide in little niches, you can hide in what is like lockers, except they're like closets and stuff around the map. Hiding is a lot more easier. Now, not to say that this is a hide and seek kind of game. It is far from it. Now, you can play hide and seek. It is a tactic, especially at the beginning of the match when you're trying to craft a weapon. When you are defenseless and you don't have a weapon, it's a good idea to just stay away from the killer totally. Because running from the killer, while it can be done, it's once you're tracked down, you're getting ready to get hit unless you can either 360 out of the way. 360ing like in DBD is a little bit tougher from what I've heard from Jay and several of the others that have tried it. It can be done. It is a much more difficult task to maneuver that in this game. I'll tell you, in terms of balancing, the first night that I played, all the survivors were winning matches. It was great, and maybe we lost to a killer one time. Then the second night that I played, the killers were demolishing the survivors. So it was like, it really depends on your team, who's playing the monster. The back and forth seems pretty balanced. Matches were always pretty close, you know, the survivors almost getting killed, and then you just get that last attack off. Somebody manages to get it in before we all die, and it's very exciting. In terms of exploits, nobody's really found anything. I haven't seen a way to exploit anything in any of the matches. We have tried to break it and do several little things here and there. And overall, I mean, it just seems like the back and forth is really solid in this game. Very entertaining. So in the beginning of a match, again, especially if you're coming off of DBD, you gotta push through that learning curve. Don't just run around away from the killer like I did in the beginning, always getting found and then getting hit. Because it will happen. You have to practice hiding a little bit more in the beginning and just kind of staying off the killer's radar, I have found. And that is actually fun. It's not boring. So some of you might be going, I don't like to hide from the killer. I like the chase, whatnot. You can kind of mix both of them together because somebody's going to get found, you know, at the beginning of the match. Chances are, unless all of you are just completely hiding, but then if you're hiding, you're not getting anything done, you know. Somebody's going to get found, most likely, and they're going to have to run. When you get hit at the beginning of the match, it's not the end be all of the match or for that player because of how the life bar system works and the stuff you can find around the map to keep your health up overall. Down at the bottom left, you have a life bar and you can eat candy bars to actually bring your life bar back up so you can get downed multiple times. It's not like, it's close to DBD, but not quite. You know, in DBD, you get downed, you put on a hook 3 times and then you're dead. In this game, you have sort of a life bar, so you can get downed, but when you're downed and in the dying state, you're not dead yet. You're not dead until your life bar depletes fully. So if somebody, for example, keeps giving you candy bars, you can get down multiple times. You're not going to die until your life bar is gone. But there's only so many candy bars on the map. And in order to get these candy bars, you have to either beat on vending machines or dig through trash in order to get them. And then those involve mini games. So with that said, you know, you have to go in with the survivor with a different way of thinking, you know. It does play a little bit different than DBD. It looks and kind of feels like DBD, but it plays totally different and it's really fun. Out of every match that I've had, you know, there's immense fun to be had. There is a learning curve. You're probably going to get beat down a few times by the monster until you get used to it. It took me about 5 to 10 matches, and then I started to wrap my head around it. It might take some of you a lot less, but you have to wrap your head around the gameplay a little bit, and then you're gonna get it. You're gonna be like, okay, I see, you know. And if you play the monster a few times, you get it. You see what the monster is seeing, how they track people down, and I've played a few monster sessions, and it's not as easy as DBD to track down survivors. When they're hiding, they're hiding. So, but there is abilities that the werewolf, wart, and the doll master have to keep themselves in the game and to keep themselves going after the survivors in a fun way, and the survivors going after the monster in a really fun way once they start getting weapons crafted. Now, here's the thing. This is the one thing that immediately hit me while I was playing this game. When you're playing the teens, you're very defensive at first. At the beginning of the match, before you ever get a weapon done, you know, you're hiding and you're kind of trying to stay off the killer's radar. You're playing very defensively, you know. You're defenseless. You don't have anything. The killer, there's no pallets. There's hardly anything that can kind of defend you. But when you finally get on the crafting station and you get that weapon crafted, everything starts to turn around. The gameplay goes from very cowardly and defensive to now, let's go after the killer. We got this. You know, the excitement starts, right? It's like going up a roller coaster. The beginning of the roller coaster, it takes a while to get to the top, but once you get that weapon built, that's the roller coaster's going. It's going. Like, you know, when one person gets a weapon built, then that person can cover some of the other teens to get their weapons built, and this back and forth with the killer starts happening. Some people start using themselves as bait to run the monster out into a hallway or in a room, and then another person comes out of the corner and bam, you hit him with a weapon. And it doesn't happen instantly too. When a survivor hits the monster with a weapon, it takes a little bit of time for the hit to actually count as a stigma hit. For example, when you shoot a ray gun, it takes about, I think it's like 6 to 9 shots. I don't remember right off the top of my head, but you got to shoot him a few times before you get that stigma. With the fire, you got to sit there and hold the fire on him for him to get the hit and for it to count. For one of the 4 stigmas, you got to get all 4 stigma classes to kill the monster and call it a game. So for example, when you're throwing a flamethrower out, and these weapons don't pop out instantaneously, by the way, when you're using them, it takes a second. Like for the flamethrower, for example, it takes a second for it to wind up when you hold down the button. So you got to practice your timing before the killer gets to you. You don't want him to be too close, because he could just go ahead and hit you. Now, if the killer makes a hit while you're trying to use a weapon, it stuns everybody. It stuns you, and it stuns everybody in the vicinity. So you got to run away at that point. You got to get away. So the excitement just kicks off, even worse. If you get hit by the monster, he's like, now you got to scoodle-doo out of there. So once you scoodle-doo away from the monster, you can get another chance, right? But now you're one hit away from being down. So do you stand up against the monster a second time? Or do you go off and try to retaliate with another team or work another plan together? And there's lots of back and forth options. So, and for example, again, with going back to the flamethrower, if you pop it too early, the killer sees it and he'll back away and retaliate himself. He'll go out, he'll either leave or he'll hide in another room for a moment. And if you pop it too late, he'll hit you. So you got to practice that timing, getting that timing down for a weapon such as the flamethrower. And that's just one weapon. Each weapon is different and requires practice to use against each different kind of killer. For example, the werewolf. The werewolf has an ability to where when he gets close and he knows you're there, he can howl. And what the howl does is it reaches out in a vicinity, an AoE, area of effect, and it will disable everybody in that vicinity from using their weapon for a few seconds. So guess what you got to do when that happens? You just built a weapon, you're going after the werewolf, you're excited, you're like, I got him. And then he gets close and he knows you're there, he will howl, and now you got to run away. Now this stun does not last too long. You got to run away for enough time, and it'll only lasts a few seconds, but you don't want him to be too close, because if you're running and you're stunned, he's going to get a hit in. So you got to measure your distance from the wolf, and hopefully you're not too close when he starts to howl, because if he's on a mission to get you, you better make sure you're far enough away. When you're running away with a weapon, for example, that you can, by the time the stun runs out, you can turn around and try to hit him with the weapon in time. Hopefully he's not too close to you. So you can kind of see where the back and forth is coming in. That's just one killer, that's just the werewolf. The werewolf also has an ability where he can sniff you out. He can hike up an ability, and now what he does when he starts hunting, it's called a hunt that he goes into. When he starts hunting, his heart starts beating real fast. And the closer you are to a survivor, the faster his heart beats. The farther away from a survivor, the normal, his heartbeat settles down a little bit. So you don't want to be hiding. You can't really hide around the werewolf. He'll find you, So now you guys can see how difficult the pressure could be with the werewolf. And then his third ability is a berserk, I think it is, where he can run around really fast. So you could kick on howl and then berserk, or vice versa, depending on your strategy. And now the werewolf's running real fast. You better get the hell out of there. So now you guys can kind of see in your head how tough these creatures are going to be, And then you guys have seen the Doll Master, how he works his magic. Wart has armor. Little frog boy named Wart, he can armor up for a hit. So when he gets close and he wants to attack a survivor, he can put on his armor. Now he'll be able to take one hit through the armor, and it won't stun him when the armor comes off. So you better not be close. Again, if you're trying to attack him with a weapon while he has armor on, you may break the armor, but now he's going to hit you. So you have to make sure at least 2 of you are standing around waiting for an attack. One person to break the armor, one person to make the actual stigma hit. That's one strategy, you know? So, and then now you can see how he can pressure you. Wirt can also echolocate the survivor, so he could see them at least where they were last standing on the map. Now that does not follow them on the map, it just gives you a few seconds to see where they were last standing, where they last were. So as soon as that happens, if you're a survivor, it's good to just move into another room and then do what you would go about your business. And then his third ability is a really fast leap attack. He can leap on you and get an attack in. So you can kind of see now the back and forth. I love the back and forth from the sessions that I've had. It's exciting. Matches can go on they can either be really short, or we've had matches that have gone on for 30 minutes before, you know, where everybody's kind of playing defensively. It's not a bad thing. It never has felt slow enough to be annoying, like, oh, the killer's just running away and not coming at us. There's always things that are going on in the match, like a rift will appear and you can grab it, and then that will let you know where the killer is. Alternatively, the killer can also grab it and see where the teens are. So the matches have never been really slow, where people are just hiding constantly and you can never find them. There's always ways to find people. Haven't had any really... Matches can be frustrating, you know, at first but it's usually because I'm still learning. I have found I still need to play much more to get a handle on it. I've only been playing for a little bit, but enough to get a handle on the game and to know that it is fun. Like the back and forth, it's much more, there is much more layers to the gameplay cake than there was for DBD. You know, where DBD has like 2 layers to the gameplay cake. You're fixing a gen and then you're escaping. Well, now you're like, what the crafting tables are like generators, right? But you're making a weapon, and you can make different weapons. That's another layer. Each weapon has different uses. There's more than one weapon in a set class. And the way that once they start pouring killers out into this game, the back and forth is going to be just tons of fun, because of the way these matches unfold. It's just exciting, because the back and forth is so different match to match, because you can have a fight anywhere on the map. So there's always different locations to have an encounter with the killer, different strategies that the teens can make and create, as well as the killer on the way that they choose to approach and engage with the teens. There's the potential for this game. The game is already really good, and it's only in beta. I can only imagine what it'll be like when they start releasing more content, monsters, teens. It's really exciting. I'm being totally 100% honest. You guys know me. I don't talk about these types of games unless I'm actually enjoying them. Now, to answer some questions about map size and perks and all that, I can't get into the perks or the underlying lobby mechanics of the games and the teens, trees and stuff like that, progression systems. I can't get into that. The map sizes are, I'd say the maps are relatively a little bit bigger than DVD maps. There's a lot more detail going on in the maps. There's a lot more places to hide and just maneuver around against the killer, and for the killer to maneuver around against the teens. It's different. It definitely has a different aesthetic to the maps and the way they feel. They feel good. The controls feel good. It's responsive. The only thing that I'd have to say is leaping through windows does feel a little bit slow when you go to fast vault through a window. That is literally the only thing that I've noticed in the game. Everything is pretty responsive and fun to play. And with that said, I think I've covered as much as I can. If I forgot anything, you guys just ask questions in the comments and I will bring it up in the next video as much as I am allowed to talk about. There still is some systems that they are going over and finessing. And we can't talk about everything in the game, but we will get to that point eventually as the open beta does get closer to releasing for everybody in general. I'm having a good time with this one. I have a really good feeling about it so far with the games that I've played. It's been really exciting, edge of your seat entertainment, no joke about that. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.